We're getting ready to head out to the arena and get June tacked up, and I want to welcome you guys back to the channel. Today we are going into a very highly requested topic, which is my favorite exercises in my approach to developing your horse's top line. So whether you ride hunters, jumpers, dressage horses, cow horses, ranch horses, trail horses, you have a liberty horse, you ride horses just recreational for fun, or you're a professional, this is for you, because my firm belief is the way we work with our horses should build our horses up, should make our horses stronger, should make our horses more confident physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The way we work with our horses should be developing that working partnership. What we do with our horses, what the exercises are that we do with our horses later in this video, probably 5 to 6 different exercises I'm going to take you through. What we do will develop your horse's strength. It'll develop their mental understanding. It'll develop their emotional fortitude. Okay? How we work with our horses will build the partnership that you have with your horse. And so you'll see that come to life through the rest of this video. But if you're looking for a way to help your horse get stronger, whether that's so that you can prevent injuries, right? So we can have that strength to prevent injuries. You're looking for strength so that you can go out and do performance horses. Whether you're looking for better body control so that you can have more confidence that you know you have control over your horse's body. So that way when you're out navigating the trail, you can feel confident that you can navigate any type of terrain. So you can build your horses confident in their stealth, because just like us going to the gym, as our horses get stronger, they get to feel stronger. You can help your horse even develop that sexy beach body just in time for summer and go into winter looking shredded, ready for Christmas, right? You can put them on a Christmas calendar or whatever you want to do, all right? So if you guys are looking for those types of things today in helping your horses be stronger, have a better mental understanding, have some emotional fortitude, and ultimately develop that horse's top line, you're in the right place. So let's get ready, head up to the arena, and get June's tacked up. Here's the disclaimer before we get into developing your horse's top line, because so many times I get asked, hey, what do you feed your horses? What kind of supplements can I give my horse to develop a top line with my horse? And here's the thing. You cannot just feed a top line into your horse. If you think that you're just gonna throw them more fat, throw them more protein, throw them a supplement to develop your horse's top line, what you're gonna do is you're gonna create your horse being fat and inflamed, and you're gonna get your horse sick, and you're gonna get your horse to actually where you're gonna have a lot of injuries. You're gonna have a lot of problems, right? Nutrition is essential for developing a horse's top line, but you cannot just feed a horse into having a top line. You can feed a horse into having fat deposits, being ready to be like a cattle ready to go to slaughter. You could certainly do that, but that's not a top line. Okay, developing your horse's top line is developing strength. And so nutrition is really important in developing a top line. We have to make sure that they have enough vitamins, minerals, amino acids. We have to make sure that they have enough protein in their diet, that we're meeting their caloric needs, because we're putting our horses in physical work. You cannot just feed a top line into your horse. You actually have to go to the work. And today we're focusing on the work that goes into developing your horse's top line. So now, I promise, let's go to the arena. How does saddle fit affect building your horse's top line, right? Because we have to have tack and equipment that actually fits our horses. And so one basic rule of thumb is you need a saddle that fits, right? You have to have a saddle that fits. Why? Because if the saddle doesn't fit, let's say that it's pinching the horse up here behind the shoulder blades, and say the saddle's too narrow on that horse, when that horse is contracting their muscles and you're trying to get that horse to engage, that saddle's going to be impeding the movement, okay? And if the saddle's impeding the movement, they cannot actually build those muscles, right? If they have enough pressure against their back, that area of their back cannot actually develop the muscles, and you're gonna end up with other issues, right? The whole reason that we're talking about building the top line is to make sure that we're working with our horses in a biomechanically friendly way to actually build their body and strengthen. If your tack and equipment is hindering that movement, then you're gonna end up with injuries, you're gonna end up with tightness, you're gonna end up with lack of muscle development all the way through. So fundamentally, like this video we're focused on, we're gonna get into showing you guys these exercises, but you gotta make sure that your tack fits your horse, because if it doesn't fit your horse, it's gonna be in the way of the actual muscle development, and you're gonna cause issues. You're gonna cause soreness, tightness, and all the things I just mentioned. So as we get into working on the exercises here to develop our horse's top line, we're gonna start with the number one most essential ingredient every horse has to have working to be able to start to build their top line. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then we're gonna get into my favorite and the most underutilized least used exercises out there that you should be working on with your horse every single week. Maybe even every single day, but definitely every single week. All right, so as we get into the very first exercise here, this is the most essential ingredient for building our horse's top line and building our horse's education, but we're gonna connect this down to why it's so important and how we need to do it so that we make sure that our horses are using themselves properly. So the very first piece is we have to have our horses moving forward, okay? They have to be moving forward, but beyond that, because you're like, duh. Along with that, we need our horse moving forward from the hind end first. The number one thing that we want to make sure is not happening is that our horses are pulling themselves with the front end. And this happens a ton, where so many people get focused on where's the horse's head, where's the horse's neck, what's the horse's shoulders doing, and they kind of ride their horses like a motorcycle. And and that's not just recreational riders, that's professional riders too, and we forget about the booty, okay? I joke with some of the horses that we train, they don't come in with a booty, but they leave with one because we build it. And what that means is that my leg aids, are connected to this horse's hip. The horse is connected down to my seat. So that way, when I go forward, the horse thinks about driving from behind first, not just pulling with the front end, all right? And that part's really important. So if you're on a really green horse, you might start this by laterally flexing your horse and actually putting your left leg on like I would here and asking that left hip to move over and actually get your left leg aid connected to that left hip, okay? And I might, if I'm on, and this is again with a really green horse, I could bend this horse around, put my right leg on, and get this horse to understand, hey, when I put this leg on, I'm moving this foot over, okay? And that is important because right in that instance, because of the way the horse is bent, I'm saying move off this pressure and move this foot. My hips are connected to my horse's hips, my shoulders are connected to my horse's shoulders. So when I put one leg on my horse, they should move away from that leg. When I put two legs on my horse, I should be able to drive both hind feet up underneath them, right? So when I squeeze with both legs, my horse goes forward, stays straight between my legs, and I'm able to drive the hips up underneath them. So we might start with inside leg, moving the hips over just to get connected, but then from there, when I want to ask my horse to go forward and I put my legs on, I want my horse thinking, okay, he's asking me to go forward, and my first thing is I need to move off my hind end. I want the transitions of going forward coming from here first. And that's really important because another question I get quite a lot is, well, how do you get your horses stopping better? And the thing is that they have to be going forward, right? If the horse is not rating your seat going forward, then they're not going to rate your seat coming down, okay? And that's another topic for another day, but it's really important that the horse is understanding to move off the leg. They get connected, more connected to our seat to where their mind, if their mind doesn't think here first, they're not going to move this first. So that part of developing that forward motion there is really, really, really important. And then when we go to, I'll give you a little sneak peek here of getting these horses to go forward more, is then when she goes forward, that she's driving from the hind end and not pulling with the front end. Right now, I'm just kind of getting her warmed up here. So I would be fine with her. And you'll see she wants to, I'll let her carry her head up here a little bit, but if she gets too far out of frame and she gets in a bad biomechanical position, then I will pick up and soften her. That way she can drive from the hind end and pick up her back while she's going forward. So I want these horses to be able to walk, trot, canter on a loose rein and be able to have freedom in their movement. She can move around with good rhythm, good tempo. She can have straightness and alignment in her body. But then also, once that colt starting phase is kind of over, that I can start to pick up and soften this horse and see how it doesn't restrict the movement through her body, right? I'm asking her to use herself in a little bit more of an athletic posture and position while she's moving forward. So you notice when I let go over here, she doesn't speed up. She keeps that tempo, keeps that rhythm. There she drops her head down because she's relaxing. When we're working with these horses, I mentioned earlier, we're talking about contracting and relaxing. Contracting and relaxing. So here, contracting those muscles, just like you're lifting weights in that forward motion, to make sure, just like a system, like an engine, is going to keep moving with smoothness, and there's not rigidity, there's not things clunking and clanking and tinking and making really bad, awful noises that you don't want your car to make, right? With here, I want to feel that she can soften and still move like a very smooth system all the way through her body, driving from the hind end and be able to move around here. So I really like the way she feels. And when I let her out, you notice how she doesn't speed up, because she doesn't associate my hands to speed control. She associates my hands to staying focused, relaxed, understanding what she needs to do. And then ultimately at this phase, right, we're into the balance phase of this horse, where we're working on her athletic working posture, okay? So you can see here, just nice and soft, and let her relax and move through. And we'll just ask her to, what I'll do here, I'll pick her up, I'll make a turn, drive through, get her straight, and ask her to stop. Really thinking about when I take my legs off, that she engages that hind end through there. So that to be able to get the more smooth downward transitions in that, well, in this case, and guys, for the very full transparency, right, 10, 15 years of my training career has been with warm bloods, dressage horses, eventers, hunters, jumpers, all of those types of horses. And of course, you're not gonna ask those horses to sliding stop. So now we're gonna move into probably my favorite part of this video and some of my favorite exercises. And I'll be very transparent, at least one day a week with all my horses, the focus is backing up. Now, there's probably not a ride that I have with a horse where I don't actually back my horses up, but I definitely have one ride a week where that is the primary focus of that entire ride. All right, we've already gone through the forward. That horse will get warmed up and go forward, walk, jog around, maybe lope a little bit, but nothing crazy, because the main focus of that session is going in reverse. And this is something that definitely English horses don't do enough of, is backing up. And if we really want to get into the nuanced details of why this is important, besides getting your horse more confident, stronger, more relaxed, all of those things, more not being way less wiggly and being more stable in how they carry themselves to where you can feel comfortable and confident on your horse, is the reverse done well, backing up, the rein back, whatever you want to call it, done right, is the first true steps of collection that a horse can take, because they back up in a trot. When the front right foot comes back, so does the hind left. When the front left foot comes back, so does the hind right. They back up in those diagonal pairs, and when they load their hocks up properly and they elevate their shoulders and they engage their core and they contract their back and they use their top line, that is the first two steps of collection. Yet for some reason in the English world, they look at backing up as an advanced skill set, okay? It's not. All right, it's absolutely not. And I'm not banging on the English people, because I've trained horses in that industry for 10 or 15 years now, and that's been a big part of our clientele. The rein back benefits the horse, okay? And so we're gonna go through actually probably four different backup exercises that I'm gonna share with you right now. We're gonna start simple. We're gonna progress into more advanced ones here. The main thing that's really important is we're building on that forward momentum, right? We're talking about getting our horses to follow our seat, moving off of our leg. I'll throw this little pro tip in there for you too, is that my leg does not just mean go forward. My leg is there to guide that horse and to also provide energy. It's the direction and the steering and everything I want to do with my horse does come from my seat. The horse should mold themselves to my leg. But you'll notice that a lot of times horses think, well, the leg just means go forward. But when I ask this horse to back up, if I need to ask this horse to go back up a little bit more, I'm going to use my leg. Why? Because my seat's going to tell that horse what direction to go, and then my leg will reinforce how much energy I need to have. If I need to use my hand, either to redirect the mind or to ask for a better posture, then I will, all right? But we're gonna keep this fairly basic here, and then we're gonna build up into some more advanced exercises that will benefit your horse to build their top line, all right? So the first one we're gonna do is backing up straight. I'll go two-handed because you might have your horse in a snaffle. I'm just riding this horse in what she rides in every single day here. And so when I go to ask my horse to back up, if I'm sitting on my horse just like I'm hanging out, I'm gonna go up into an active riding position. Okay, this is something I got from riding in Portugal on dressage horses. This is not a Western horse thing. I'm gonna do that just to make sure everybody knows that this is applicable not to just Western horses, but to also all horses, because they're horses, all right? Imagine that. So I'm gonna mow up into an active riding position, and I'm going to bring my shoulders back and ask this horse to follow me back. Okay, if she does, now she's starting to, because I'm doing this really slow, so she's like, how slow should I go? Okay, and I'm just to break this down for you guys, sit up, open my seat, bring my shoulders back. An analogy that I like to think about is my mom always said to me, like, I can see everything you do, I got eyes in the back of my head, all right? So I like to ride like I got eyes in the back of my head. Why? Because that keeps me straight. Otherwise, sometimes people go, I'm gonna back up, and they do this, and they're looking down over their horse, and they're heavy over those shoulders. So sit up into an active riding position. I'm going to bring my shoulders back. My feet are going to come just a little bit forward. If the horse doesn't follow, then I can take a hold of 2 reins, ask that horse to start to step back, okay? And backing straight up. Your horse may not back straight up right out of the gate. If they don't, then the best way to teach a horse to back up straight from the get-go is to back up until they get straight. All right, back up until they get straight. So you let them wiggle and wobble and weave and do all those things, and you say, just keep backing up. And when they take 3-4 steps in a row of coming straight back, then you relax, okay? Then you say, okay, that's good. And the horse will start to realize that they need to back up straight. So stop my seat. I'm gonna go into the back up here. If she doesn't follow that seat, I can go to my legs on this horse. I'm gonna show you a little more advanced of her backing up here so you guys can see from the side of where I can keep my hand down. The horse is thinking back. She's following my seat. If she stops and I don't want her to, I can put a little leg energy on, okay? Here's the thing that I want you to understand is that there's not a lot of pressure between my thighs here. I'm not pinching with my knees because my horse needs to be able to reach underneath my seat just like I'm riding forward. And so this very much comes from how I'm sitting on my pelvis. Sit back, there, you see how she draws back. Shift in my seat, keep that channel where her body is between my legs and underneath the saddle open to where she can come back, okay? If I wanted to change her physical position of how she's backing, then I can pick up on her here and ask her to hold a little bit more, I'm not gonna say a more athletic position, but a different type of posture in the back up. So I stopped, I rode her forward here, hold that softness. This is getting a little ahead of the game, but you guys can get a little sneak peek here. Stop, open my seat, ask that horse to come back. You notice that my hand here in my aid is not backing her up, okay? It's not backing her up. It's just merely responsible for holding that physical position, setting the point of balance that I want her to carry herself in. But she is operating off my seat. So the very first thing we want to do, if you're teaching a green horse, you can go 2 hands, have your hands wide, and ask that horse to follow back all the way through. If your horse, this is not really a how to teach your horse to back up video. This is just backing up straight. I'm showing you how I'd like it to look, right? You can decide where you want your horse's head to be as a Western performance horse and where she naturally goes. You guys can see that when I've asked her to back up, I'm not like forcing her head down or anything. That's where she goes, because when she drops her head that way, she's able to use her entire back, all right? But I can absolutely pick up on her and make her a little dressage pony, make her a cow horse, and also ask her to pick herself up with a different type of posture through her head, and it's gonna use different muscles. But very first one is backing up straight. Second one is going to be the basic backing a circle, okay? The basics of backing a circle. And so the way that we're gonna do this is, I'll go 2 hands because a lot of you guys might be in a snaffle, and I'm gonna have her bent to the left. If I have her bent to the left, her hips are gonna move to the right, all right? So she's gonna back a circle this way. Her butt's going that way, all right? So I'll tip her nose to the left, ask her to back up and close both my hands, and I'll have my left foot on to move that hip around. So her hip is moving away from the direction of travel, okay? You guys see how her nose is basically following her butt around that circle, okay? If I want to go to the right, I'll tip her nose to the right, break both reins back or open my seat, whichever your horse needs. You can see how her butt is moving away from her nose, okay? Basics of backing a circle. This is the easiest way to start teaching your horse how to back a circle, okay? Take her nose to the left, come back. See, she kind of went forward. I just bumped her with my legs and say, nope, come back to me. back this circle this way. So that is a fantastic place to start teaching your horses how to back circles. Now, one thing that we're really looking for in that backup is that they feel balanced, that they're stepping with rhythm, and they have good tempo, right? When you start this, some of your horses, particularly if you've never backed them in a circle, they're gonna feel pretty choppy. They're gonna feel like they're stagger stepping. Back until they find that rhythm, back until they find that tempo, because they can get more confident in how they need to place their feet through there. Your aids are there to support them. So when we go into the first teaching our horses to back up those basic circles where their nose is tipped this direction, we ask them to back up, and then their hips are moving away from that direction to travel this way. Sometimes folks can get a little confused of like, how do I set this up? And one easy way to set this up with your horses is when you're in that beginning phase, you should be able to just go ahead and basically disengage their hind end. And if you can disengage your hind end and then go into the backup, okay? Go into the backup from there and have them move off that same leg from there. That can be something that can be really beneficial. So if I walk this horse forward here to the right, and I say, okay, let's move her hind end over. I'm gonna disengage the hind end. That gets disengaged, shut the shoulders down, and then I go into my reverse and I press off my same foot, that same inside leg, and have them start to teaching them how to back up circles that way. That part can be a very good way to start that exercise if you're trying to figure out how to put those pieces together. One little pro tip to keep in mind, if you have your horses too bent around, like this would be way too far, or I'll bend her towards the camera so you guys can, if I had this horse bent around, I was trying to get her to back circles with her bent this far and her ears are in a bad position because she's off balance, that's gonna be really tough on your horses, okay? So it's not about having them licking your boot, but it's more about making sure that they have a little bit of bend in their body. That way they can be able to stay balanced through that turn. Then we're gonna move into the third one. This is the advanced one, okay? This is the one that if you get to this point with your horse, you guys will be kicking some butt and your horse will be getting so much stronger, okay? So much stronger. And this is where we're gonna back a circle and the horse's nose and hips are gonna be going in the same direction, okay? So if I have my horse's nose to the left, I'm gonna have my horse's hips to the left. If I have my horse's nose to the right, my horse's hips are gonna be the right. They're going to be backing in the shape of a horseshoe or the shape of a C, okay? And I'll show you how this looks, all right? So if I was gonna teach this in a very basic sense, I could tip this horse's nose to the left, put my right leg back. Well, let's just get us going back first, okay? So here I tip her nose to the left and have her hips going to the left as well. Sorry, I was getting my directions because you guys are on my right side now. So you guys see how I've got this horse's nose to the left and have her hips reaching in that same direction. Okay, I'm gonna tip her nose to the right, have her hips move to the right and reverse. Okay, there's my right leg, help keep that shape. So I'm very much riding, if we were to go forward right now, we could ride a circle to the right and still have the bend through her body that I'd want her to have if I was walking, trotting, loping, that circle, okay? So this reverse, if I'm working on developing collection in my horses, I want that hip a little bit to the inside there to where she can engage and carry herself, and I could stop, watch, and reverse. She got a little hung up, that's okay. And go back around my circle. There, the hips get a little laggy, so I just pressed her off the spur there. Okay, and then ride forward. Driving the hind end up forward for that engagement, okay? You notice that this is where I want these horses thinking, oh, she's thinking about turning around. That's okay. So I'm not gonna, like she was thinking about turning because we went to the stop and yesterday we were stopping and turning around in a forward turn. And she's actually getting ahead of the program because I'm gonna show you guys that here in a second in the next exercise. But I'll work with her to get her through this little sticky spot because you guys like to see when it gets sticky. And then back her this way. So my right leg back, I'm opening my left hip here. So this is something that's really important to think about, is that when I'm riding these horses, whether it's forward or reverse, is that I'm dancing with them. So I have to guide them and give them somewhere to go, right? I'm not constantly just pushing them around. And so I'm opening my hip for her hips to be able to reach this direction, okay? You guys see, she's on a pretty loose rein. And she's just guiding around, following my seat. I can switch my seat this way, open my hips to the right. I'm gonna have to help her a little bit with this right rein because she has a little tendency to like to look left. So I'm gonna support her here. I'm gonna press and hold. And that's just a little habit that she has. She's a little left-handed. That's okay. Some of you guys might be too. And open this hip to where she can reach that direction, okay? Then when I ride forward, you notice how she can really drive from behind. She feels elevated in her shoulders. She feels nice and soft, and she's more in a I'm not gonna call it true self-collection, but she is way better in a more self-collected, getting to closer to collection type posture, okay? This horse is on the journey to collection, but collection we have moments of, but she can't maintain it, right? It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of education to be able to be mentally self-collected. Probably the thing that, with her being pretty sensitive, holding that mental composure to be physically collected is the big piece for this horse. But you can see in that particular exercise, being able to back those circles, so important. Opening the hip in the direction of travel, having them stay right between your legs where they willingly guide between your legs, and making sure that you understand that your physical body posture influences theirs. So I'm opening my hips this way and bringing my shoulders back as well because I want her to match the same posture that I have in the saddle. So next, what we're going to get into is some transitions at the walk with our horses to challenge the horse's ability to rebalance themselves. All right. So I've got a pro tip, a really big pro tip I'm going to share with you here at the end, so stick with me. But at the walk, we can get so much done with these horses, not just in going in reverse, but also, and I don't care what kind of horse you ride, this is applicable because if you're going to ride down the trail, you need to be able to move your horse's shoulders over to navigate a log, go through a creek. If you're riding dressage horses, you need to be able to practice shoulder in, and you need to have control of being able to readjust that horse's balance all the way through, all right? And so what we're gonna do here, and for our cow horse reining people, you're gonna call it a turnaround or a spin. For your dressage people, you're gonna call it the beginnings of canter pirouette. For trail riding people, it's shoulder control, right? And so I might ask this horse to start to move her shoulders around and then be able to go into a reverse and then turn 90 degrees, go into reverse, okay? Walk my horse forward, turn her shoulders, and I can go two hands. I can say, hey, can you follow your nose this way? Let's turn your shoulders, move off my right leg. Let's go in reverse. Because what ends up happening is when I ask this horse to move their shoulders over like this, she has to bear more weight over her hind end. And then I ask her to back up and she's got to take the weight off that hind end and ideally move in a more 50-50 type way through the backup. Then I can ask her to move forward, walk forward, carry a nice balance. Might be able to ask her to move her shoulders over. And so we're just intertwining. I didn't really like that she kind of pushed on my leg there just a little bit, so I'll bump her, walk her forward, hit the reverse. And so I might play, if she starts to feel a little heavy on the front end, then I can go to reverse. If she feels heavy on her left shoulder, I'll turn her to the right. Feels pretty nice there. Go to the reverse. If she felt heavy on her right shoulder, then I turn her to the left. Okay? And all of your horses, like you can do this with 17-hand warm bloods. They're just not going to turn around that small in a circle and that quickly. And it's not about speed, it's about balance. Speed is the enemy to balance. So I'm way more focused on, is this horse moving balanced through her body? Okay, that matters way more to me. If she comes forward, does she move balanced? So there she feels a little bit heavy, like she's leaning towards the camera. So I'll pick up and I'll actually change her point of balance, move her off my right leg, and see there she's kind of leaning. I'll kind of keep going until she starts to step there off of that leg. And now, because I want her to be able to move straight up underneath herself all the way through to where she's carrying weight equally in all 4 feet in a nice alignment, and she's staying more balanced. Here's the thing, right? The stronger and more balanced your horses get, the more confident they can get. They physically, it's like us going and working out. Once you get past that first 2 weeks of like, oh my gosh, this sucks, right? And you start to feel better, you want to keep working out because you have a better sense of confidence. You feel like you've got more control. You feel stronger. Our horses feel, ultimately, I do believe, because I've trained hundreds, if not thousands of horses at this point, I've seen horses that when I focus on developing their strength, they get more confident, okay? And I don't want my horses getting more fit and not any smarter. So I don't like going out and just lunging horses or just throwing them on the hot walker just to get them fit. They need to be getting smarter and more trained while they're also getting stronger all the way through. So you can use that transition of yielding the shoulders, yielding the forequarters, and making sure that that horse is staying right between your reins and right between your legs to develop that horse's ability in their strength to move balance through all 4 feet, forwards, back, left, and right. And I dictate what I do based on what I'm feeling in their shoulders or in their hips. If they're leaning to the hips one direction, which she didn't end up doing, then I could go back to that very basic backing circle of bending her nose and pushing her hips over in reverse. And I could get, especially like getting better alignment on your car. You go rotate the tires a little bit. And this is a great exercise to do at the beginning of your ride to make sure you got your horse in good alignment, that they've got good tempo. And it's not a very physically taxing thing to do at the walk. But next we're gonna get into that pro tip that I promised I was gonna deliver on. And we're gonna get into that pro tip here, and we're gonna bring together moving that horse forward while also having good engagement from the hind end. All right, so 2 pro tips I'm gonna promise to deliver to you right now. I promised 1, but I'm gonna give you 2. The first one I can't necessarily show you, but to be able to build your horse's top line, build your horse's booty, get them really using themselves well. One thing that you can do, and it's great to get your horses out of the arena, is go back them up hills. Back them up hills, right? And it might just be a little hill that's 3 or 4 feet, not very steep incline, but then they have to really reach and develop better proprioception, better awareness of how to place their feet. That is extremely, extremely powerful in building their confidence, building their streak, building their top line, is backing them up hills, okay? It can be little bitty hills, not mountains, okay? Not mountains, hills. Make sure that like you can get 3, 4, 5 steps of that horse backing up, let them walk forward. It's a lot of work, okay? This is something we want to chip away at while we're working with our horses. But since you guys can't see that one, I want you to use your imagination. I've got other videos discussing that. And then from there, what we're gonna get into is the second pro tip that we've got, which is going to be making sure our horses are not getting lazy in the downward transitions. I see so many riders with their horses that want to get that horse moving forward, have better engagement, be collected, all the things. And then they go into their downward transitions and the horse gets super lazy because the person gets lazy and they fall out of position, they drop on their shoulders, and they don't come all the way through. If you're gonna develop Western performance horses, you really need that horse to stay driving from behind. Why? Because you want them to slide, okay? You're gonna have them slide. If you're doing dressage or jumpers or any of those sorts of things, it's really crucial that they stay engaged from behind in those downwards because it's how they're supposed to actually be using themselves. When we go to ask these horses to move around, I'm gonna ask her to trot around here for a second. I'm gonna get her walking out. Let her loosen up. We've been standing for a minute. When I go to ask her to move out, one thing that I can watch in that forward motion is that when she goes forward, you notice how her head comes up because she's got to elevate her posture, but she doesn't pick her head up and drop her chest into the ground, okay? She doesn't drop her head down and just start plowing the arena with her sternum. That is definitely not what we want. We want this horse driving from behind, okay? And that part is essentially crucial. Then, when we go into a downward transition to the walk, we go forward to walk. That forward to walk is a phrase that changed the game for me from a friend of mine named Patrick King, who's a dressage clinician and trainer, and an amazing, amazing horseman. And he taught me, like, hey, think about when you come into that downward transition, whether it's from the canter or lope or from the trot or from the jog, however you want to, whatever terminology you want to use, that you go forward to walk. So I'll ask this mare to go forward. And so I think when I cluck there, I don't use a whole lot of verbal. I have very intentional verbal cues, but it's energy, engagement. It's not speed. It's just give me a little bit more of what you're doing, okay? And when I come to that downward, so she thought about stopping, I'm gonna drive her forward, And we were stops, like sliding stops yesterday. But for the sake of this video, I want to think about a little ranch horse thing. Forward, there, okay? 2. And I don't want to feel that she crashes downward, okay? It wasn't like the perfect transition. That's fine. You guys like to see real stuff, okay? There we go. That's a little better. Okay, and I don't feel like she's heavy in my hand. She has to adjust her head a little bit. There's some freedom in that for her to adjust her posture based on the body position she's coming in at. But I really want to make sure that she stays driving underneath herself. That way, she keeps that hind end engagement. I don't want her, the faster she goes, for her hind end to get further and further behind herself. All right. So if we lope off here. Notice, because we've done a fair bit of backing. She hasn't even loped in this session yet. Because we've done a fair bit of backing, you notice how she is kind of carrying herself a little bit more. I'm going to have to turn. See, I'm trying to stay away from the camera so you guys can see. Okay. We'll come out here. She's a little sticky on this right side. She's kind of leaning to the outside. There. Notice that, so this horse, a little additional pro tip, she's leaned to the outside. Steer her over. Keep those shoulders in alignment, and then come down to that downward and keep going forward. Okay? Not a perfect transition, but it's not getting lazy. The pro tip here is do not get lazy in your downward transitions. Oh. And so you can play with all sorts of different transitions. You can play with being able to back your horse up. I'm going to look where I want to go, back my horse up, and go forward into the lope, and play with all these transitions, okay? And forward to halt. Oops. See, I did that because she was thinking about going straight down the arena. You know, transition, move those shoulders over a little bit. To the back up. This horse has a lot of energy, and she has a lot of forward she likes to go. So that was a good time where she was like, let's lope. She lopes circles for fun, okay? That's her fun activity. But I was like, let's just jog. Let's just go for a jog for a second. Walk. Good. And so being able to get these horses to where they're right in tune with your seat all the way through is so, so, so important. And that's going to wrap it up for today, folks, on developing your horse's top line. Always feel free to drop your comments. Let us know what you took away. Let us know what you like. We always appreciate it. And don't forget, we have a list of free resources for you and your horse down in the description below.